Huh. Funny how things work out your way sometimes, don't they? Today. Today is a joyous day. You know why? Because for the first time since 1947, the Chicago Bears will select first in the NFL draft. Yes, folks, that's right. The Bears have the first overall pick. I cannot believe it. They sucked so hard. They completed the greatest tank in franchise history. And guess who got him the first overall pick? Bears legend Lovie Smith, who wins over the Colts 32-31 in his final game with the Texans. Oh my goodness. I cannot believe what just happened. Look, Peterman played for the Bears. I don't care. They were going to lose that game, and they did, even though Nick Mullins came in for the second half. It basically became a crapshoot between Nathan Peterman and Nick Mullins. Guess who's going to win? Oh, wait, Nick Mullins. He's actually somewhat competent. Nathan Peterman can't throw a football. He actually somehow managed to throw a touchdown pass in this game, which, good for him. It's like his third or fourth in his career. So, good for him. He even split playing time with Tim Boyle, who was with Detroit last year. By the end of the game, we weren't even paying attention to that. All eyes were in Indy to try and see if Davis Mills could lead a comeback drive to spoil the Texans' seemingly immaculate tank. And guess what? It happened. It happened. I don't know how, but the Texans converted two, not one, two, fourth and long conversions to get that touchdown. By that I mean 10 plus yards. They converted a 4th and 12 with a great pass to Brandon Cooks. And then on 4th and 20, you think the game's over, especially with a team like the Texans. Everyone in Houston's like, yes, get sacked. We're going to get the first overall pick. Next thing you know, Davis Mills is rolling out, heaves it to the end zone, and it goes right through the Colts' fingers, right through his hands, and into the arms of Jordan Akins, who is now a hero in Chicago for making that catch and the 2-point conversion catch that got the Texans the lead. Ballsy call by Lovie Smith. And I'm pretty sure he knew he was going to get fired, because he did get fired. Pretty sure he knew he was going to get fired. And so, he was like, you know what, screw you guys. I'm going to ruin your tank. We're winning this game. And that's what he did. Build the statue. Build the statue of Lovie. I don't know. That's what a lot of people are saying. But Lovie Smith has a better record during his tenure with the Bears than the Bears have had since they fired Lovie a decade ago. Still one of the dumbest things this organization has done, to fire Lovie Smith after a 10-6 season. Unfortunately, didn't make the playoffs with tiebreaker. Sucks. But you fired Lovie Smith after a 10-6 season. They have had one winning season since. One. Need I say anything else? So this is going to open up so many possibilities for this team in the offseason. And they're in such a good position to really make some major strides next year. They can either shop that first overall pick, say with Indy, and with Denver winning, Indy now holds the 4th overall pick. So if Indy wants to trade up to the first to try and steal a quarterback from Houston, that is definitely an option, because I'm pretty sure the Colts are going to be done with this whole veteran quarterback carousel, with going from Rivers to Wentz to Ryan. Yeah, that's it. They're done. They're in a position to grab a great quarterback, or a potentially great quarterback for the future. And they may want to be a partner with the Bears to try and get that quarterback. In exchange for the 4th, another first, or maybe another first rounder for next year. I don't know. So, I don't know. This team has a chance to do a massive 180 in 1 year. I mean, the Jags had the first overall pick 2 years in a row. And look at that, they're division champs. They won the AFC South this year. Coming back after starting 3-7 and 2-6. They have won their division. I can't believe that. They go from worst to first in their division. I'm impressed, to say the least. The Bears have an opportunity to do that. In our division, probably not. Vikings are still going to be good next year, although I probably think they won't be as lucky and won't have 13 wins next season unless they make some big offseason moves. Detroit will be scary. They may actually threaten for the first division championship in 30 years. And then there's us. That is like a wild card. We're such a wild card in the NFC this upcoming offseason. We could get so much better and win 10 games next year. We could not improve that much and win only 6. So there's plenty of things that could happen. But if they make the right moves, they could compete for a playoff spot this upcoming season. If not, this is going to be on Poles if he can't get some of these pieces. Seriously. Poles has been gifted with the first overall pick and over $100 million in cap space. If he can't make it happen, I don't know. I don't know if this franchise will ever have any hope again, because they actually have a quarterback, which actually opens the door for so many other things. Trade partners, other players, free agents, Will Anderson or Jalen Carter. I don't know. So many possibilities, and if you can't make it work, I don't know. This franchise may never be good again. So a year where we all knew this team was going to be terrible, and I mean terrible. But they actually did not play like the worst team in the league at times. They had a couple good games that they lost. And looking back, Chase Claypool being interfered with against Miami. Look where it's got us now. Having trading away Roquan Smith. In the moment, sounded awful. But look what? He got paid in Baltimore. But we got some compensation for him. Would have sucked if we held on to him for the rest of the year for maybe 2 more wins. Let him walk in free agency and be just, oh, well, we don't have Roquan Smith anymore. Honestly, probably better that we got a little compensation for it. Although I probably would have liked a little bit more. Maybe a player from Baltimore. But the fact that we even have something in return for Roquan Smith is good news. Especially since soon after we traded our second-round pick to Pittsburgh for Chase Claypool, which, with Miami forfeiting their first-round pick this season due to some scandal, our second-round pick is technically the 32nd overall, which is technically a first-rounder. So, honestly, I know a lot of people are going to laugh at us. The fact that, we didn't win a game after we traded for Chase Claypool. We weren't trying to win this year. We weren't trying to win after we got Chase Claypool. I really do like, I would love to see Chase Claypool be a mainstay in this offense. I really want to see him perform after a full offseason to really try and connect and bond with Fields and Mooney and other receivers and just the team as a general, because you're thrown into this situation, and so he had a terrible stint this season. He looked really bad. He did not get any targets because he wasn't integrated really with the offense. And I really hope that he would have gotten to that point, but the team really kind of gave up by that point. So with a fresh season and a full offseason to bond with the new team, I really think that Claypool could potentially be a good wideout and a reliable wideout for this team. That may take some time, but, I look back to his season in 2020. Had a great season. If he can play like that again, if he can get to that form again, I would love to see it. Which is another thing I want to mention. The receiving core. The receiving core was downright awful this season. Mooney was the only solid receiver on this team, and I'm not upset that he was wide receiver one. I think he really deserved it after Allen Robinson departed in the offseason, which I'm really mad, especially. I would be okay with it if he just performed in LA and just wanted to go there and whatnot. But he did like nothing with the Rams. He's like fallen to irrelevance. And I'm like, okay, you wanted to walk, and what did you do in LA? I don't know. And I'm still rocking my Robinson jersey. One, because I don't have any other jerseys. Two, I still like Robinson as a player. I still think he has great potential. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I think Fields just didn't really have that great chemistry with him, and he just wasn't up for it. I don't know. Robinson has been been another one of those receivers like DeAndre Hopkins, who has just kind of been stuck with below average quarterbacks or average quarterbacks throughout most of his career, or really all of his career at this point. Because, he had very, very short time with Stafford. I'm just going to disregard his stint here in LA. But on the topic of that, DeAndre Hopkins, I mentioned his name just a couple seconds ago, but I saw something the other day that said that it might be interesting to see DeAndre Hopkins come to Chicago. And, I'm sitting there like, you know what? To get a veteran receiver, even if it is just for a year or two to kind of hold us over until we maybe can get a receiver next year, unless that is if we decide to pursue or not pursue receivers this year in either the draft or free agency, depending on which one, because you got to address it somewhere. But if, DeAndre Hopkins comes to Chicago as kind of like a transition into the future so that Fields really has a true number one wide receiver who can just make crazy catches, I think it might be a good decision. That is if he can cut down the off-field behavior so that he can, not be suspended for 6 games. That'd be great. So this team has a lot to work with. They have a lot of money, and they have a lot of draft capital. Even though we did lose that pick to trading for Chase Claypool, we still have a second-round pick that we got from Baltimore for Roquan, so we'll still have a pick in the second round. This is going to be a very important offseason because there are a lot of problems to address, and we may actually have the money to address all of them right now. That is if the right players come to Chicago and are available to Chicago. Because from what I've been hearing from what we've seen, a lot of receivers are getting paid. Last year was a big shakeup for receivers. This year, from what I've been seeing, it doesn't look that great, the free agents that are going to pop up in the receiving area. So, I don't know. We signed Equanimeous St. Brown for another year. I think that's an all right decision. While I have ratted on him a little bit, I 100% prefer Equanimeous than Dante Pettis. Dante Pettis, he can walk. He had 3 touchdown catches. He had a couple great plays, but for the most part, he had some really, really bad drops that were pretty much not necessarily right in the breadbasket, but really should be caught. So I am totally fine with seeing him walk. But the defensive area is definitely, I think, the defensive front has been a Bears' strong suit for a couple of years now, but this year it really took a hit after we traded Quinn and Smith. So we need to bolster up the D-line, and if we don't trade the first overall pick, Will Anderson and Jalen Carter should be able to make an immediate impact. Now, as for the rest, bit different story, because you're guaranteed to have a great player in Anderson or Carter if you don't trade the first overall. And, you got to start looking for linebackers and other D linemen and defensive backs. It's you got to keep looking because there were a couple, the linebacking from Nick Morrow and Jack Sanborn was pretty good. I don't know if they'll keep roster spots. I love Jack Sanborn. I think he should keep a roster spot next year. But I think that Morrow and Sanborn are all right. Obviously, if if an all-star linebacker shows up in free agency and wants to come to Chicago, take it. But, I don't know. There's a lot on the defense they can do, and I'm really looking forward to see Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon take that next step to really becoming shutdown corners, after a year in the league. Sure, there'll probably be a couple things that kind of get through in year 2, but I'm expecting improvement. Jalen Johnson, I don't know where to gauge where he's at. He's been in the league for 3 years now, on this team for 3 years now, and I don't think he's done a great job as CB1. And so, I did like what Jalen Jones had at the end of the year, or whoever 31 was. I think that's who it was, Jalen Jones. I think that he did a good job, but the entire defense really needs some retooling because, frankly, defense, in my time following the Bears as a fan, really has never been the issue. The defense has always been the better half of the ball. This year, it really did kind of look like the offense was a little bit better. Both areas were really bad overall, but, I don't know. It's so tough. It's so tough. It's such a tough situation to navigate because you have so much availability and space to breathe that you almost don't know where to start and you almost don't know what to do. I don't know. At least that's how I'm looking at it. Of course, I think Ryan Poles has been thinking about this for a while now and has, played around with ideas and is kind of really feeling it out. And so I'm excited to see what the offseason holds for this Bears team. Draft, I believe, is in April. It usually is. I don't see why it wouldn't be this year. It'll be in April. So after the Super Bowl, they'll have some time. The Bears have a great opportunity this offseason to do a lot. And it's super interesting because the division is going to look nothing like it did last year, probably. Of course, let the speculations begin. Aaron Rodgers may not come back to Green Bay. And if he doesn't, I actually don't know what I'll do. I'll be incredibly happy. I will celebrate to the ends of the earth. But it almost is going to feel weird and almost wrong, if that makes sense, to not have Aaron Rodgers in the NFC North. But I don't know. It's going to be bittersweet. Kind of like, I don't know. Now that it's kind of coming to an end, you can see the end of the tunnel, potentially. It feels a little bittersweet. I don't know. My mind is just in a bunch of different places regarding Aaron Rodgers right now. But the Packers may potentially have the worst situation right now with the fact that Aaron might be leaving. The fact that there are plenty of other players who might be leaving. And the fact that they lost at home to Detroit with the playoffs on the line. Aaron Rodgers losing a game at home to a division opponent when the playoffs are on the line in a big game under the lights. He doesn't lose those games ever. All 3 games this year at home against divisional opponents were either in the afternoon slot or at night. Against the Bears, Sunday Night Football, as in every year for some reason. Their Vikings game. The last 2 games were the other 2. The Vikings were in an afternoon game at Lambeau that pretty much became a night game. And then the final game this weekend against Detroit on Sunday Night Football, which that was a great game. Despite, only 3 touchdowns, it was a great game. Close the entire way through. Neither team felt like they had a complete edge, but neither team felt out of it. And that's what I love to see in football. I don't care if the score is 20-16, 16-14. If it's close throughout the way and neither team feels like they had the upper hand, I'm going to watch the whole thing, especially if the Bears are involved. And I know those games very well as a Bears fan. But it's so weird considering how you look at the history of this division, you look at the history of these teams. Once you enter the Super Bowl era, it's all Green Bay in this division. The Vikings have made 4 Super Bowls, lost all 4. The Bears have made 2 Super Bowls, won 1, lost 1. The Lions, still without an NFC championship. So, It's just interesting. And the Lions haven't won the division in like 30 years, too. And which makes, as this season's gone, I've been actively rooting for the Lions. I really wasn't even that upset when they lost last week, when the Bears lost to them last week. But, the Lions, they're a team you can't really hate unless, you have your biases, which, of course, you have your biases. It's Detroit, and you live in Chicago, and you don't like Detroit. I get that. But this just feels different. This was a team of destiny to do some great things, and they really have set themselves into a great position to win next year and win big and potentially win the division next year. Because the Vikings, I'll tell you what, they're not going to win 13 games next year if they play like they did this year, because they won 11-0 in one-score games. Only 2 wins of multiple possessions, one of them being against us here in the last game. So the Vikings have historically, especially recently, have been a very unlucky team. So to see him get a lot of this luck, nice change for once. And so, I don't know. Vikings, if they play like that again and keep finding their ways into one-score games, they're going to lose a couple next year. They're going to lose a few. They may even lose more than they win. So, the division's wide open. I can't even begin to even think what the division will look like next year, especially if Rodgers returns and the Bears get better. Because I'm expecting both the Lions and the Vikings to be that top 2 if us and Green Bay don't get better. But, if we improve as I expect and Aaron Rodgers returns and a lot of the core pieces in Green Bay return, this could be a bloodbath of a division. I've been rambling for a long time, and I'm going to try and wrap this up. Because the playoffs are about to start. The Vikings, the only team in the division to make it after Seattle beat LA and pretty much knocked Detroit out. Detroit knocked Green Bay out. Seattle's in, they'll play San Francisco. The Vikings will play the Giants at home. And then if they win that game, they'll either go on the road against San Francisco or host whoever. And so this should be really interesting. I'm really intrigued to see what happens here. And I want to see if the Vikings, if their luck's run out or not. So yeah, I don't really have much else. I don't really have much else, but it's been a wacky season. It's been a crazy season. But it's finally time to close this chapter on Bears football. I know a lot of you out there are excited to close this chapter and move on and hopefully never have to come back here again. But we close this chapter of Bears football and move on to the next chapter, which may include a $2 billion renovation of Soldier Field to make it a dome. So anyways, thank you once again for a great season. Despite the Bears ending their season on a 10-game losing streak, going from 3-4 to 3-14, I have high hopes. This season, despite it being full of heartbreak and frustration, was one of the most fun Bears teams I had seen in a while. Obviously, 2020 was boring because we had Nick Foles for half of the year. Justin Fields last year looked like a dead man walking. And so, then you keep going back farther, you get into Cutler, Trubisky. The 2018 team was fantastic to watch. But I think I had a lot of fun watching this team, despite them winning only 3 games this year. And so that's kind of weird to say. But anyways, I think my job here is done. So, thank you so much for watching this season. If you enjoyed, please hit that like button. And if you enjoyed watching these reactions all season long, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button. I'll have something coming out here shortly about what I'm going to be doing here, since obviously you've noticed I haven't been doing the Hawks reactions. I decided to not do it this year because I'm already dealing with one terrible team, not dealing with another. And so, yeah, that's what I've got going on, so stay tuned. Anyways, this video is long enough. You've wasted enough of your time here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.